Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a keynote speech at the Boao Forum for Asia. He stressed the role of Asia and Asian civilizations during a world in flux. How will this guide the Boao Forum and Asian economic integration? And with Western media and brands scrutinizing the Xinjiang cotton industry, I went to Xinjiang to speak directly to a cotton farmer and a picker to hear their side of the story. Can their testimonies set the record straight? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Lyu Xiang. Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a keynote speech via video link at the opening ceremony of the annual conference of the Boao Forum for Asia. By sharing China's philosophy and proposal for promoting development and prosperity in Asia and beyond, he emphasized countries acting magnanimously and holding a dialogue on Asian civilizations. Exactly what messages did he send? Why did he underscore Asian civilizations at the forum, which focuses on economic cooperation? I'm pleased to be joined today by Lyu Xiang, Research Fellow at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, and David Blair, Vice President and Senior Economist at the Center for China and Globalization. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. David, let me go to you first. Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed that the theme of this year's forum on global governance and the Belt and Road Cooperation is most opportune and relevant under the current circumstances. Here's what he said exactly.
Now, the combined forces of change and a pandemic, both unseen in a century, have brought the world into a phase of fluidity and transformation. Instability and uncertainty are clearly on the rise.
This is President Xi's assessment of the trends of history. David, how does this assessment affect China's policies, especially diplomacy?
I think he took a very big step toward trying to stabilize the world. He had two major themes as I see it. One is political strategic, and the other is economic. I was really struck by the fact that he said that he wants to preserve and safeguard the U.S.-centered international system. And he went on to say he wants to uphold multilateral trading through the WTO, and he wants to prevent hegemony of one country dominating another. I think that's a very important message, and I hope the Biden administration is listening to that message, because there are many people, as I read the Biden administration, who are thinking about going back to a Cold War situation. If you read the National Security Strategy document, which was issued in February, it sounds very Cold War-ish. He's saying that China is wanting to stabilize the system that has created so much prosperity over the last 50 years. On economics, he talked about openness, innovation, free and competitive markets, and also through the BRI, infrastructure investment. I think that's also a message of stabilizing and spreading prosperity, spreading China's dynamism. China has a very dynamic economy and a very dynamic people, and he's talking about spreading that throughout Asia and really throughout the world. So it's a very strong message that he wants to continue the system that has created prosperity over the last decades, and is not seeking to move to anything that looks like a Cold War, which I think would be absolutely disastrous for the world.
Lyu Xiang, now lots of factors, however, result in instability and uncertainty. Basically, President Xi said that in his last keynote speech at the Boao Forum in 2018, and this time he stressed instability and uncertainty once again. How do you assess the international situation in the past 3 years? What have been the biggest change? Has it gotten worse from 2018 to 2021?
Actually, I don't say it's got worse, but it's not. It has not got better. So in the year of 2018, we saw that the U.S. government took a very protectionist measures against many countries, especially China. So that's a horrible trade war. But in the beginning of the year of 2020, okay, it seems that the situation could be a little bit better. But then we saw the pandemic. We saw a pandemic in the world, and what's horrible, most horrible, is that the developed countries, their response to the pandemic were the worst. So now they saw a crisis, and they saw themselves in a weak position. And now the current U.S. Administration tried to engage other countries, especially China, from a position of strength. So they need to, how to say, the United States need to wanted to re-strengthen their strength, and so it's a very sensitive and uncertain time for the United States. We are looking to the possible moves, policy moves they are taking in the coming months.
You can tell that the Chinese government, especially central government, those who wrote out the script, tried to fit in some one-liners so that they can be taken away pretty clearly by the rest of the world. For instance, in terms of what the world needs to do, he had this to say. Let's take a listen to this.
What we need in today's world is justice, not hegemony. Big countries must behave in a manner befitting their status with a greater sense of responsibility.
Now, the Western mainstream media has just responded that the speech is a veiled critique to the U.S.'s behavior in recent years. David, what's your take? Exactly what message did he send, and to whom?
Well, as I said before, I think he's sending a message not only throughout Asia, but he was sending what I interpret as a very strong message to the Biden administration that it's time to talk and to stop this nonsensical move toward constant confrontation and possible Cold War. I see that as a very strong message. I'm not surprised that much of the Western mainstream media is shaping that to fit their own narrative, but I don't interpret his actual message as being in any way confrontational. It's really sending a message that he wants to stabilize the world and create an open, predictable trading and strategic order. That's a very, very important message, and I hope people around the world are listening to it.
Mr. Lyu, what is your take of the tone, of the general tone of President Xi's speech? As David just pointed out, some Western commentators would like to say that, this is a hard stance, a hardcore stance that, on part of China delivered to the West. But you can also, I certainly saw a kind of reaching out, even olive branches, and talking about opportunities, what kind of opportunities can be shared by the rest of the world when China continues to develop itself. How do you describe the tone and underlying message of President Xi?
Yes, actually, President Xi didn't mention the name of either President Biden or the United States, but we all agree that President Xi referred to the current leaders of the United States and he apparently urged them to abandon the Cold War mindset. So for President Xi, it's very clear. Now the world is facing great challenges, and it's also full of hopes. If all countries in this world can be united together, can join hands to join their hands to tackle the current situation. We saw a great setback and downturns of economy in the last year, and this year is full of hope for many countries to get a recovery, and so unity is paramount.
There were also mentions of attempts to erect walls or decouple. President Xi says that these actions defy the law of economics and market principles, and they hurt others' interests without befitting oneself. David, a free and competitive market is always the slogan of Western capitalism. Have they deviated from it already? It seems that China has taken up the role of defending free markets and the rules of economics.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do want to mention one point about the strategic side, though. I think President Xi said explicitly that he wants to preserve and safeguard the U.S.-centered international system, which is a very strong statement. It's a very strong message to the Biden administration, seeking for cooperation and peace and an end toward pushing toward militarization or anything dangerous like that. On the economic side, I'm always struck by how active the economy of China is. A Nobel Prize winning economist named Edmund Phelps, an American economist, has pushed the concept of dynamism or mass flourishing. Premier Lyu Xiang talked about his earlier book, Mass Flourishing, quite a lot. And when I'm in China, I see a dynamic economy, a very free market economy that I'm not seeing in many other places, including the United States, which is becoming increasingly monopolized. So I think China sort of is pointing the way toward creating a dynamic economy where you have dynamic people pushing indigenous innovation. So I'm sort of enjoying the ride of directly seeing what's happening in the Chinese economy during this transition period.
Lyu Xiang, how do you see China's role or China's intention in terms of Asia and China's position in it from what President Xi said during this speech and also his call for a second summit on Asian dialogue among Asian civilizations? How does China see its role in terms of Asia? And is that in sync with what the United States want China to be in terms of Asia, or on a kind of a collision course with what the United States would like China to be as a member of Asian countries?
Okay, so for Asia, I think two things worth mentioning. Firstly, I'd like to say Asia is the most diversified, culturally, is the most diversified continent. We have very different cultures and civilizations. And the second thing is that Asian countries now account for almost half of the world economy. We see quite a few emerging markets in Asia, and with China as the largest. So when China addressed the situation of the whole Asia, I think China, first of all, we say China is one of the Asian countries. And secondly, China is the largest economy in this region. And China is an indispensable partner for all countries in this region. We want to see an integrated region, not a divided one.
20 seconds to you, David, on the same question. How do you look at China's vision for itself as a member of the Asian part of the hemisphere?
I think there are two important parts. One is BRI. I think infrastructure is very important. It gives people opportunities. You can't build businesses unless you have good connectivity, both through 4G and 5G and through infrastructure building, and BRI is part of that. The other is China's economy is big, which means it has less benefits from trade, this is standard economic theory, than a small country does. So opening up its economy really is a benefit to the smaller countries in the region, more than to China itself. China benefits, but not as much percentage-wise as the small countries in the area.
Okay, we have to leave it here. Many thanks to Lyu Xiang and David Blair.